This is an updated instructional video for the assembly of the Moderno Kids Raptor Kids Ride-On toy. Okay, first we'll talk about the minimum required tools that you're going to need to assemble your Raptor. I recommend a long shaft Phillips head screwdriver. Phillips head being the cross shape. You will need an 11/16 wrench. You can use two of these, or you can use it in combination with a thumb wrench. These are a few tools that'll make your life a little easier, make the job a little easier. A ratchet with an 11/16 socket, a power drill, and a socket set or driver set for your drill. This could just make the job go a little quicker and make it a little easier. Okay, so we're going to do a real quick parts list. First of all, you should have 4 tires. You will have 4 hubcaps that go with these tires. Okay, and then we'll move up to the Jeep body real quick. Obviously, you should have a Jeep body, and you'll see some of them come in different states of assembly, but for the most part, this is what you're going to get. Inside the Jeep, you're going to have 2 drive motors, here and here, and 1 seat. This is a leather covered seat, real leather. This is your charging cable. Front bumper supports, front grille with headlights, 2 mirrors, 2 roll bar lights, 1 remote control, 2 drive cogs. These will go in 2 of the wheels that will be mounted to the back that will allow the motors to turn the back wheels, 1 antenna. This is the front steering rack and the front axles for the front wheels. Top of your roll bar here. Roll bar supports are here. Steering wheel here. You have a bag full of assorted nuts, screws, washers, and you'll notice a little white cable. That is the MP3 cable. This particular ride-on toy comes with a quote-unquote radio, but you can plug in an MP3 player and play your music through the Jeep speaker. It's a neat little feature. And we'll talk more about these small pieces as we start to use them. We also have 4 center caps for the wheels. These will cover up the nuts that hold the wheels on the axles. You have 2 brake light lenses. You have 1 gas pedal. This is your rear axle. It'll go all the way through the body of the Jeep and into the motors, and then you'll connect your wheels, your back tires, wheels here. These, to be honest, I think these are makeshift wrenches that you could use in a pinch, but of course we're talking about plastic. I'd highly recommend that you use the minimum tools that I recommended. But maybe in a pinch, if you don't have those, these could be used to help assemble your Raptor. I did not use these. And these are your 2 side exhaust pipes that will be mounted to the side of the Jeep. And real quick, just a tip on installing these, you need to use the shortest screws that are included in your pack, because if you don't, the screws screw in through the bottom of the Jeep, and if you're not careful and use screws that are too long, they will actually protrude through the floor plate of the Jeep and could cause a scratching or cutting hazard for little feet. So make sure you're using the right screws. It should be the shortest screws that you have in your pack for these. Okay, so I made the mistake the first time on the first assembly and used screws that were too long, and they protruded through the bottom of the Raptor. So okay, now once again, I'll caution you, before you start using any of your screws out of your package, set aside 4 of your shortest screws. That's 4 of your shortest screws for your side pipes that we will install a little later. Again, I just don't want you installing screws that are too long and causing a cutting or sticking hazard for little feet. Okay. These 4 guys with this head should get the job done right there. So we'll leave those aside. Okay. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to install our rear axle in the Jeep, and we do that by running it through these holes in this channel. Maybe a little hard to just kind of wiggle it back and forth a little bit. Remember, you're working with metal and plastic. Obviously metal's a lot stronger than plastic, so you don't want to try to really have to force something. We don't want to break the plastic pieces. Just kind of keep working with it a little bit and wiggling, and it will go in there just like that. And just kind of eyeball it so that it's about even. Just like that. Okay? So that's our rear axle. Now we're going to turn the Raptor back over. And we're going to reinstall our drive motors. And remember, we have a left-hand drive motor and we have a right-hand drive motor. So we're going to install the drive motors on the rear axle. Notice the small hole here goes all the way through. That is going to be placed on the axle. You want to feed your wire through this hole right here in the body. And once you get that in there, we can slide the whole assembly in just like that. So you should end up with this looking like this on the outside right here. Just like this, okay? And then we've got some screws that will secure this to the Jeep body. First, we're going to install the left one. Okay, left-hand side, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start the axle through the small hole in the drive motor. We're going to feed the wire through. And we're going to make sure that the motor goes all the way in. And again, we'll secure this in a moment with some screws. Now, if you look on the inside right here, pay close attention. You have color-coded wires. For your left-hand drive motor, you have a red and a green wire. Okay. For your right-hand drive motor, you have blue and yellow. Okay. And notice on here, you have a red and green plug, and you have a blue and yellow wired plug. Make sure that you plug those in so that they match, okay? Red and green with red and green, blue and yellow with blue and yellow. And we can go ahead and do that now. There we go. So we're going to install the rear wheels. You need a drive gear. We'll install just like that into the wheel, okay? Alright, then this is on the axle, and then make sure that these teeth line up with these slots in the drive motor, okay? And you notice it's got a little play, but that way you know it's hooked up. Okay, and we're going to do the same. Again, install drive gear onto the axle. And there we go. Now, let's go ahead and install the hubcap. Notice you got tabs and slots. Tabs on the hubcap, slots on the wheels. We'll slide in. just kind of take a little finesse just to snap these in. And then you don't want to really crank on it and force it. Just kind of push in on it a little bit there. And you'll do this for all four before you put on your washer and your lock nut. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get this started on here, and we'll leave this just like that. And we're going to go to the other side. Okay, we're going to repeat the process. We're going to install the hubcap. Again, tabs, slots. Get the first one started, kind of push in and maybe push up a little bit. May even have to work it out a little bit like that. If it doesn't go in this way, I'm going to rotate it in one. Let's try this one. There we go. Okay. Okay, there we are. Now again, washer and nut. And now we're going to tighten these. Now, with this axle being a straight axle, it goes all the way through. If I try to tighten this side, it's going to make that side spin. So I've got to have something on both sides. One side to keep it from spinning, the other side to tighten it up. Okay. And I'm going to use an 11/16 wrench and an 11/16 socket. Put one on one side. Make sure that your ratchet is set to tighten. Put my wrench on the other side. Now I can just use my ratchet and I can tighten. Okay. And if you'll notice, you've got just a little bit of the threaded part of the axle sticking out from the nut. Okay, again, don't over tighten. Don't over tighten. Okay, now before we do anything else, let's install the center caps. Again, we have pegs and we have slots. Okay, just line those up. And you may have to squeeze on the edges of these just a little bit, just to kind of get it to go in there. Okay, and it's humped up right here, so I'm going to push down right here a little bit. I may have to pull this, the bottom out. There we go. That one's in. Okay, do the other one on the other side. Sometimes you'll notice there's bits of plastic left, these little pieces, and sometimes that might prevent a piece from going together good. You may want to, take a knife or something like that and maybe, and clean that up a little bit. I don't think this is going to be an issue in this particular case, but it just came to mind when I saw that extra on there. If you have a real problem with it going on, you may want to clean those edges up a little bit, but they're okay, I think. If you'll notice right here, I've got a little piece right there that just might be preventing that from going in. So I'm just going to take my pocket knife and I'm just going to gently scrape that off, just like that. There we go. So we're going to install a washer onto our axle here. Notice there is no drive gear necessary on the front. Okay, all they're going to do is spin free. And install. Okay. Now we're going to install our washer. Then we're going to install. How did I do the last one?
you did that first.
Okay. So we're going to install our washer first, then we're going to install our hubcap. Okay. Again, tabs, slots. There you go. Make sure you get it seated all the way around. Sometimes these things can be a little aggravating. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to install our locking nut. Again, remember we only need our ratchet or our wrench just to tighten this one. It's not gonna spin on the other side like the back. There we go. Make sure it rolls freely. We'll go ahead and install our center cap. Again, tabs, slots. Just make sure they line up. There we go. Same thing on this side. Notice there is no drive gear. It's not necessary. We've got our washer goes on, then our wheel goes on. Okay, then our other washer goes on. Okay, and then next our last hubcap. And you may just have to go around and around a few times to get it to seat all the way. Okay. And last, now put on our lock nut. And we'll tighten it down with our socket or our wrench. Whatever we're using. Okay. Tight again, don't over tighten. And now we'll install our last center cap. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so we're almost ready to turn the Raptor back over, but before we do that, it's easier to go ahead and install the decorative side pipes. Okay, so you'll have one on each side. And we'll start with this left-hand side. Again, remember, we have set aside 4 of our shortest screws, and they have big heads, but they're short screws so that we make sure they don't go through the floor of the Jeep and cause a scratching or cutting hazard for little feet. Okay? Again, we can use a drill, and the way these go on, this little part here, this is like where the exhaust would come out. It goes to the back. Okay. Notice we have tabs here, and we have slots here. So alright, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it on just like this. Okay, tabs go in the holes here, and we're gonna rotate it on there. I should be able to pull up right here, and it should be snug in there. Okay, and then we're gonna use 2 screws to secure it to the Raptor body. Good to go. the same with the front. Again, you've got slots here. Okay, right there, just like that. Okay, rotate it on. You may have to stretch these a little bit. Notice it's a little short here. I'm just going to push on it. Okay, if I need to, I may start one of my screws or both of them. Hold this thing in place. Screw. Next we're going to install the seat, and this is a nice little leather seat, nicely stitched. It's just a nice little feature there. On this particular assembly, the screws are actually already screwed into the hole, so we're going to remove them. And if you notice, I'm using a long shafted screwdriver for this particular piece of the installation. That's because you kind of have to go down through the seat to install the screws, so you may need the extra reach of this long screwdriver to get that done. Alright, now we're going to sit the little seat in place, and it should sit all the way down. Make sure that your little seat belt is out of the way there. Okay, now make sure your seat's all the way back. And hopefully, if we're lucky, drop the screws down in there, and hopefully they'll fall into place. And if it doesn't, then you can kind of wiggle it around, wiggle the seat around a little bit, move it back and forth until you can get your screw to bite in. There we go. Again, remember, don't over tighten. A tab, and that tab goes into this notch, and then it turns slightly and kind of locks into place. Now don't over rotate it because it can jump out of the notch, so you just want it right there. Now we're going to replace our screw.
It's fine, I can edit it out. Okay, there's the screw.
So this is the front of your roll bar. Okay, so the Raptor sticker should be facing the same way as your little lights, okay? And the smooth part will be on the outside of the Jeep. In this instance, this one will be on the right-hand side, and the other one will be on the left. If you notice, if you have them wrong, first of all, it's not going to fit right, and then you'll notice that. So make sure you have it on the correct side. So this one on this side, turn a little bit. Okay, it should face exactly forward, just like the lights are. And I'm gonna run a little screw in right here. Okay, and we're going to repeat on the other side. Run the screw out. Install. Okay, so now if you've done it correctly, this is what it will look like. Now we're going to install the whole roll bar onto the body of the Jeep. Okay, you'll notice you've got 4 holes. Hole here, hole back here. You'll notice you have these little pegs here, here, a peg here, and a little peg back here. Okay? That's where your screws are going to go. So we can sit the little roll bar on there. So the tabs that you see here, if you come around on this side, behind me back here. Okay? There's a tab here. It's going to sit on top of this. Okay, same thing on this side. It's going to sit inside the tab, and same with the front. And then you're going to run the screws in through these holes and down into those little pegs. Okay? Alright, so now we're going to take our drill and we're going to take 4 screws, equal length, large heads, and we'll install these. Again, be careful not to over tighten, and I'm not going to tighten those all the way down. Go around and install the screws first, and then once I have them installed, then I'll go back and tighten. You'll notice have a little trouble here with the screw because my drill's at an odd angle. You're likely to have the same problem with a screwdriver if you're using a large screwdriver. And just keep working with it, and it'll finally work its way in. Now that they're all in, I'll go back and tighten these all up. Make sure they're good and snug again. I'm not going to over tighten. Okay, and there's your roll bar. And if you've installed it correctly, it should look like this. Okay, there's your roll bar. Now, let's use a little common sense. This roll bar is for decorative purposes only, just like the lights, okay? It's going to provide very little protection in a rollover. So just please be aware of that. My children's heads actually stick up above the roll bar. So, you know, this is not a functioning roll bar again. It's decorative. Okay, so we're going to install the chrome piece. Notice the tabs are a little higher this way. This is how you install it, okay? Run the wire through this hole in the middle here. Okay, insert the tabs through the top, and it's going to slide down and just slide into place. Okay, then we have our little connection here. Alright, connection from the Jeep. And it will only go one way, so you have to figure out there's a little tab here. See the little nub there? See the cutout here, cutout there. Okay, goes just like that. Snaps in place. You hear it, just a little click. To take it out, pinch those two little wings and gently pull it up, pull it back apart if you need to get it out again. Okay, so to get it out, press these wings and press down on this one as well. And it comes apart. There you go. And again, clicks in place. Okay. Alright, now let's install the bumper. We're going to move some of this out of the way a little bit because we actually have to go in from right here. Okay. First thing we're going to do, lay it down flat. We're going to install the supports for the bumper. Notice you have an open side. 3 sides are closed off. 1 side is open. This open side is going to be oriented down towards the bottom of the bumper. And we're going to install just like this, one here. And notice before I install this next support, you have 4 holes, okay? 4 screw holes. Same for over here. Okay, just like that. So, and if you pick it up and look at it, there's the front of your bumper. Okay. Now let's secure these supports real quick. So these should be the screws for the bumper supports. Notice there are 4 holes, but which would equal 8 total, but we only have 6 screws because the instructions that I had show the small screw heads being used for that. 3 on each one's going to hold it just fine. Okay, so we're just going to install 3 on each side, and that'll be perfectly fine. If you don't like that, if you have some other screws laying around and you want to use some of those, you can. I've got screws laying around, but I'm comfortable with 3 screws on each side holding this, so I'm going to go with 3 screws. And notice you'll have little indentions where the screws will go. Okay, so there's our bumper assembly. Now, what happens next, if you look right down here, these supports simply slide in to these 2 square holes here, and if you'll notice we have screw holes here once we have it installed to help hold it. And it takes a little bit to get these started. You can actually look through the hood up here and help you get these to go in. Okay. See, that takes a little doing sometimes. You just kind of have to keep working with it. Knock them in place here. Alright. Now, you notice there are tabs on the backs of these supports, and once they pop through these little saddles right here, then it's all the way in. Obviously the battery won't allow that to go in any further. This side you could, but you don't want it to, okay? So, get the tabs in, and you can pull the bumper out until it hits the tabs, and then your screw holes should be lined up, and 2 screws on each side. Most of the screws appear to me at least to be about all the same size, the same length. So, except for the side pipe issue that I have warned you about, I don't know that there's a lot of importance in which screws that you use otherwise. Okay, and there's our installed bumper, and that's what it should look like if we've done it correctly. Okay, now we can go ahead if we want to, and we can add the windscreen, and the windscreen simply pops into place. You've got 3 holes up here in the top of the dash right behind the hood, and those just snap into place again. Just make sure that the stickers are oriented towards the front of the Jeep. Outside, kind of bang them down gently a little bit and they'll snap into place. That's it. That's in. Okay, now before we close the hood up, we need to make sure we have all the electrical connections connected, okay? Because when it's shipped, they do leave some of the connections off so that there's not a problem with, with ground into the battery and things like that, okay? And real quick, what you have here, this is your remote control sensor here. And notice we have 1 wire connected, and we have 1 wire that's off here, okay? This is your control board. Here are your batteries. You have 2 batteries. Let's check these battery connections. They're connected here. Batteries connected here. Okay, so really all we have left to do is to connect this wire with the remote. And you can see it just slips right on there, just like this. Either way, it doesn't matter. It can go either direction. Doesn't matter. Okay. And see that little rubber boot? I'd recommend sliding that rubber boot all the way up against the back of the plastic here, and that just kind of helps protect that connection a little bit. Okay. And slip this down here under here. Okay, make sure again that your little headlight connection is made there. Check your other connections on your batteries. Okay, it appears they're all made there. Good connections. Let's check these. You want to make sure all these little plugs are in place here, and they appear to be. You've got plugs here. Double check those just to make sure that those are all plugged in, and they appear to be. This, it just kind of lays down in here just like this. Okay, it's fine. May rattle around just a little bit, but it's okay. Alright, so now we're ready to put the hood back on the Jeep. Okay, you'll notice you got 2 little pegs here and you got 2 holes here. Simply slips in. There's holes there. Shut it down, and if you look here, you have spring-loaded latches. These are really cool. This is very similar like to an actual off-road vehicle, but you just lift those all the way up like that, and then you'll have it like that, and you have 1 on each side. There you go. Okay, now front's assembled. We're getting there. We're almost done. Real quick, let's do some quick things. Antenna goes here. So here's our little antenna. Okay, again, the antenna is just for show. All right, and just work it down in the hole. You may have to move it around a little bit. Again, if you'll notice, there's a little leftover plastic here, and you may have to clean that out a little bit. Okay, but you should just be able to move this around just like that. And there we go. So now our little antenna is installed, and we can go ahead if we want to, and we can do our mirrors. Okay, so mirrors. Notice mirrors have angles in them. Okay, so we need to install the correct mirror on the correct side, and it would look just like this. Okay, so the bend will go out away from the Jeep body. Remove the self-locking nut, slide it in place. Right under here with your nut, you'll find the bottom of the shaft for the mirror. Just put it in place right there, and I'm just going to snug it with my hands for now, and I'll go back and I will finish installing those. Okay, over to the driver's side and we'll do the same thing. Install the mirror. Okay. And again, I'm using self-locking nut. There we go. And I didn't cover this, but this is a 1/2 inch nut. Okay, so a 1/2 inch wrench. If you don't have a 1/2 inch wrench, then you can use a thumb wrench. This may be a little difficult to get in under this thing to install these. You don't want to don't over tighten. Just getting snug. If you notice, I'm using a ratcheting box end just because it's so much easier instead of having to take my wrench off every time and reposition it to tighten this. You could also use, if you can get it in there, you can also use a 1/2 inch socket. Okay, 1/2 inch socket on your ratchet. You want it tight enough that it doesn't move around as it's being ridden on, but you know, the kids like to play with them and they see mom and dad adjusting their mirrors, so leave it loose enough that they can still adjust it with their hand a little bit. Okay, next let's install the steering wheel. Okay, steering shaft, steering wheel. Notice there's a bolt with a nut through the steering wheel. We need to remove this. Okay, should be able to get the nut off with your fingers. If not, use your wrench. Again, we're going to need something to tighten this down. We've got Phillips head on this side, but we'll need something small enough to hold this side so that we can run that down. To be honest, a pair of pliers would probably be best for this job. Alright, so let's lay this aside. Don't lose these. Put them back together and I'll lay it on the seat. Okay, notice you've got a wire here coming out of the top of the steering shaft. Okay, the wire there, have a zip tie. We can take this zip tie off. Okay, so I'm just going to cut it. Just be careful if you cut it. Obviously don't cut the wires. Go. All the zip tie does is prevent the wire from falling down into the dash through the hole. Okay, but we're about to connect it. So now we have a wire coming out of the steering wheel. We'll connect it with the wire coming out of the dash. Okay, notice you've got little wings on the sides of this connection here. Okay, and if you'll notice in here, you have slots at the very top. So the way we're going to install this, these wings go in the top just like that. See it? So in other words, the bottom of this plug here, see, it's solid. If you turn it over and look at this side, you can see the little connections in there. Okay, just like this. And it snaps into place. So that's what it should look like. Okay, it will only go one way, so don't force it. It should make an easy connection there, and it should snap into place. If you're having to force it, take another look and maybe putting it in wrong. Okay, now we're just going to thread this connection down into the dash, and we're going to install our steering wheel hole here onto the steering shaft right here. Notice there's a hole here in the steering shaft. See the hole? here, and that's where our bolt's going through. It's going to go through a steering wheel and through our steering shaft. Okay. Make sure that you install the steering wheel right side up. Again, there'll be a sticker on there to show you how to orient it. And also make sure you're not pinching the wire that goes in the top of the shaft. Okay, now we're back to our bolt. And you'll just kind of have to move your steering wheel around a little bit until you can get the bolt to feed all the way through, just like that. Okay. Alright, and now we'll install our nut on here. Just going to use my Phillips head screwdriver and just a pair of pliers. This is a fairly easy. So I'll use my pliers to secure the nut. I'll use my screwdriver to tighten everything down. But again, you don't want to over tighten. If you want to get the correct size wrench socket, you can, but just really not necessary. And there we go. Now your steering wheel's in place. Okay. The last things we'll do is we'll install our gas pedal. Okay, go button. You notice there's a little button here, right down here. Okay, see the button? Okay, this just gives you something bigger for the little ones to get their foot on. So what you want to do is it's got two tabs, one on the top, one on the bottom. Okay, the long tab goes towards the top. All right, install the bottom tab first. Okay, so lean it way out here like this. Push down on the top tab and into the top hole, and there you go. And you can hear it clicking. Okay. Alright. So that's the assembly of your Raptor ride-on toy from Moderno Kids. Real quick, we'll go through the functions of all the features on the Raptor so you know what does what. Okay, first of all, power on and off switch is here. Up is off, down is on. Okay? If you look here, you have battery indicator. Green means the battery's good, yellow means the battery is medium, and then you have two red spots. When you get over here to this last red light, your battery's almost gone. Now remember to charge the Raptor for about 12 hours or so before first operation. Okay, you want to make sure that the battery's fully charged, otherwise it's going to die quickly. To charge the batteries, here's your charging port right here. Okay, has a little sticker right here that says socket, has a little protective rubber plug there. Okay, so when it's not in use, you plug that little rubber plug up in there, and it keeps water and dirt and things from getting in there. To use it, you flip the plug down. Here's your charging cable. Okay, so you just plug your charging cable right in, just like that. Okay, and then of course you just plug this into a 110 AC outlet. Okay, standard 110. Okay, not in use, take it out, plug that up. There you go. Alright, these are just little buttons that play the music. As far as this, there's pre-programmed sounds and music in here, and the buttons do make various sounds and make various pre-programmed little songs play. Okay, here is your MP3 port. So you can take your MP3 cord here, plug it in. Okay, plug the other end into your Android phone, your iPhone, MP3 player, whatever you use to play music, and you can actually play music through the Raptor, through this little speaker system. Now, one important thing, for the sounds on the steering wheel to work and for the MP3 to work, you have to have the volume turned up. Okay, course, it's not gonna. Okay, we'll show that later. Okay, so there's your MP3 cable. Obviously, parents will need to keep up with this. Not really for kids to play with. Here are your control buttons for the operation of the Raptor. Notice you've got a back, forward, and stop. Okay. Basically, that's neutral. That makes it go forward. That means it will go nowhere. That means it'll go in reverse. Okay. You have a high speed and a low speed. Low speed is down, high speed is up. You have an RC and a manual mode. So if the child wants to operate the Raptor from inside, sitting inside, it needs to be on manual, it needs to be either on forward or on reverse, and then select the speed. If it's in neutral and stop, it will not go. This is also true for the remote control feature. For the remote control feature, it has to be either in reverse or forward. Now, the controller controls whether it goes forward or reverse, but it has to be selected in one of these two positions. It cannot be in the stop position, or the remote will not make the Raptor move. So for remote control use, down on RC, speed does not matter. The remote control will control speed, so it doesn't matter if it's on high or on low. You control that with the remote control. Forward or reverse, again, doesn't matter. It just has to be on forward or on backward in order for the remote to make it go forward or backward. Okay. Here's the supplied remote control. Very simple, very basic. I've not installed batteries yet. 2 AA batteries. Under here, take your Phillips head screwdriver. Okay, you'll notice on here that when you have your batteries installed, light comes on. Now, there may be instances where the remote may not work right out of the box, out of the package. If that's the case, we actually had an instance where we dropped the remote and the remote stopped working. It stopped operating the Raptor, and we thought it was broken, but it just became unsynced. So what you do to sync the remote with the Raptor is you press and hold the car select button until it flashes. Make sure that the Raptor is on, and it syncs the remote with this Raptor. Okay. Now you can also control multiple ride-on toys with one controller, and so in that instance, once you've synced let's say 2 different vehicles, because that's what we plan to do. We have 2 of these, and so we're going to sync both of them with one remote. Then we'll turn this one off. We'll turn on the other ride-on toy. We'll do the same procedure. We'll press and hold the car select button until that center light flashes. Now we should have both vehicles synced to this one remote, and to go back and forth between vehicles, one quick press of the car select button. Press one, it'll operate this one. Press again, it'll operate the other. Okay. You also have a speed control. This indicates your speed here. You have 3 lights. 1 light slow speed, 2 is medium, and 3 is high speed. Notice if you press the lights, press again, you're on 3. Press again, you go back to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay? That's how you do the speed control using the remote. So the speed control in remote control mode does not matter on the Jeep. You control the speed from the remote. And lastly is you have an emergency stop. So if you have the remote and something's wrong and you need to stop the vehicle quickly, you can hit that and it'll stop all operation. I'm not sure if it will stop this when it's in manual mode or not. That's something I need to test, and we'll get back to you on that. I have a feeling that that's what it's for. You have the remote as the adult, child's riding the toy, child kind of gets away a little bit, you want them to stop, you press that and it should stop immediately. But again, we'll get back to you on that part. Okay, so there's the assembly and operation instructions for the Moderno Kids Raptor ride-on toy. These things, my children love the first one. We've gotten a second one, and hopefully your kids will get a lot of enjoyment out of it too. And remember, any issues that you have with parts missing, anything that's broken, that doesn't work properly, contact Moderno Kids. I've dealt with Sergey specifically, and he and the rest of the staff are great, and they will really work with you to make sure that you are satisfied with their product. I was very impressed. So like I said, don't hesitate to contact them. They have a website, they have a Facebook page, there's another YouTube video with another assembly instruction video, but that's for a slightly older model than the ones we're dealing with here. But you may also want to reference it if you have other questions that maybe things I've not covered. You may be able to reference it to answer your questions. And again, if you have any problems assembling your Raptor, again, don't hesitate to contact them, call them. They'll walk you through the entire process. It's really fairly easy assembly.